Okay, good morning. So we're just going to finish off Kuf Tzadi Tes. We're at the end over there, the Cheir Sheta and Cotton. What we're discussing at the end of Kuf Tzadi Tes is who can and can't be included in a Zimun. We've discussed all different types of people. We started with Akum and then Noshim and then Ktanim. And now we're talking about a Cheir and a Sheta. So imagine you're three people, one of whom cannot hear or cannot speak. We'll see in a second. Can they join the Zimun? That's the issue. So says the Ramah at the very end, for Cheresh v'Shoita im mechavnin u'mevinim mitztarfen Zimun. If they have kavana and they understand, then they can join a Zimun. Afal pi she'ein hacheresh shemea habrocha. Even though the Cheresh can't hear the bracha, then they still can be included. So says the Mishnah Berurah in Sif Kotten Chof Ches, v'Cheresh Mairi b'Cheresh hamedaber ve'ein shemea. The Cheresh that we're talking about is someone who can talk, but he just can't hear. The ilu b'cheresh gomor, because if he is deaf, mute, he is cheresh and ein medaber, he cannot hear or cannot speak. Chaim on the pot mikol hamitzvos k'koton. Then the general rule is that type of person is potter from all mitzvahs like a cotton. The lav baradea, who he hasn't got the ability to engage in all the mitzvahs. And therefore he will not be able to join in the zimun. Now, if, however, he's a cheresh who can hear ve'ena medaber, says the other way around, I'm a prima godim. Check out the prima godim. So if you look at 24, he quotes the prima godim. He says, the prima godim don lechalik ben zimun asar shemitztarfin. He makes a difference between a zimun of 10 and a zimun of 3. If it's a zimun of 10, he can join, mishum shashchina sheira al kol asar misrael, because he is Jewish, 100% Jewish, and he is the Shechina is there because there is a minyan of 10 people, and including him, lebein zimun b'shleisho, as opposed to a zimun of 3, she'itochen she'eina mitzaref. There it would make sense that the cheresh who is shemea ve'eina medaber could not join, is not mitzaref to a zimun of 3. V'chein pasuk b'shulchan aruch harav. Why? She'b'shleisha anias hamiut ma'keves. The response of the minority is ma'akev, and therefore causes a problem. Ach basar kaimelon shebedova shebekdusha ein anias hamiut ma'keves. For dova shebekdusha, if the minority do not respond, it's not ma'akev. V'omnom shebiladov yesh shleisha mezamnin kosva kseis hashulchan shemechuyev la'anois imohem. That if without him there are three people doing it, the Kseis HaShulchan says shemechuyev la'anos imohem, that you're mechuyev to answer with them. So just in short, so let's just finish. For Sheita, lo mari b'Sheita gomer. We're not talking about someone who has no mental capacity. To zein misaref, for sure he's not misaref. And she'ein chacham kol kach, he's just sort of weak mentally, let's say. Kasha inshi, as opposed to other people. So if he's got a sort of the status of a shaita, which means he's got some sort of minimal mental competence, then if he understands, he can join the zimun. So just to summarize what we said, a cheresh shaita, we said that we're talking about a cheresh hamadaber ve'ena shemea. He can speak, but he cannot hear. So in that situation, so long as he understands, he can be mistaref for the zimun. But as opposed to someone who is a cheresh gomer, who is potter from all mitzvahs in the Torah. Okay, Yud Aleph, mi sheniduhu she'alaveira ein mezamnin alav. If someone was put in cherem, he cannot join in a zimun. Says the Mishnah Berurah on Sif Kotan Lamed, bein l'shleisha bein l'asura, whether it's a zimun of 3 or 10, shezeu lashon nidu, because that's what a nidu is. That's what excommunication is. Shemarchikin u'mavdilin oso me'agudosom, that they distance him from their group. Fa'ayin lel b'simunun hey sif yud beis b'vei halacha. Go check out that. Now that's interesting. It's at the back on note 27. Just as a short thing, there he says, "Kosov she'im hoya menuda lo biglal avera el rak bishvil momon." If the reason why he's put in cherem, he's put in nidui, is because of financial reasons, that's different. If it's because he did averas, then for sure you can't get him to join your zimun. But if he's been excommunicated because of financial shortfalls, mutar litzaref ima lechol dov shebekdusha, aval im muda machmas she'oval gezeres hatzibur einem litzaref lezimun. If, however, he has violated gezeres hatzibur, then that would be different. So financially, if for financial reasons, then he would be able to join. But if it's because he's done averas or he's not listening to the communal gezeres, then he would not be able to join. Okay, that is the end of Kuf Tzadi Tes, Siman Reish. So we'll just do Aleph today. Very interesting. What about leaving a Zimun early? You've got 3 people sitting together, one's finished their lunch, and he wants to go off and he wants to just bench and go. Can he? That's the question. So it says the Mechaba. 3 people eating together. Echod mafsik, and one has finished his meal. Al karcha l'shnayim v'oine imohem bircha zimun. So echod mafsik al karcha l'shnayim. One person has got to stop his meal because the other 2 are ready. So I didn't say that right. You've got 3 people sitting down, and 2 people have finished their meal, and they want to bench, and there's just one third person who's finishing off. So the halach is echod mafsik al karcha. That third person, that individual, has got to stop, even though he's not quite finished yet. V'oine imohem bircha zimun. He has to respond to the zimun of the other 2. V'afilu lo rotz lahafsik. And even if he hasn't yet finished his meal, mezamnin olav bein oine. And you do a zimun, whether he responds or doesn't respond, doesn't make a difference. Because you're the majority, you're the 2. You can stop. Now, of course, that doesn't mean he's finished his lunch. Yeah, he's just got to stop and listen. How long does he have to listen for? That's the next sif. Whether it's till just the actual zimun, or whether it's till hazonas hakol, which is what the Ramah says. But either way, he's got to stop, and the 2 of them can make him stop and answer to the zimun. And if he refuses to answer, okay, they can still do the zimun.
Same with 9.
Yeah, we'll come. Yeah, it comes up. Bein oina. Kol shu omet sham. Okay, so long as he's there and he hasn't left the room. Avol shnayim ein chayovim lahafsik leechod. But if you've got 2 people who are still eating and one is finished, then they've got to wait because only one person is finished. We'll see what the how the Mishnah explains that in a second. And if they don't want to stop, the zimen hu aleihem le'asa klum, he can't force it. And if they don't want to stop, I mean they can if they want to, but if they don't want to stop, that individual, that third person, is not allowed to bench and go lashuk and go off to work or wherever he's going until the other 2 are finished and they do a proper zimun. And since there was a kvias of a zimun, he can't just abandon that and just bench and go because he's got a chiyuv to do zimun. Okay, we'll see the details in a sec. Says the Mishnah Berurah Sif Kotan Aleph. So in other words, 3 people are sitting and eating together, and one of them has stopped. So he can't. 2 of them. Which one is it? Echod mafsik al karcha l'shnayim. Yeah. So 2 of them have stopped eating. So the third person, you can force him to stop eating and to join your zimun. Rotzoloima. She'eschilu le'echol ke'echod. They began eating together. V'gomru shnayim mehem, and 2 of them have finished eating tchila. V'roitzin levarich birchas hamazon. They want to go. They want to bench. So mafsik al karcha, says Mishnah Berurah Sif Kotan Beis. Rotzoloima she'ein hadavar tolu b'ritzoinai im roitz lahafsik musdas v'lamis. It's not a question of, have I finished yet? Can I, am I ready to bench? Elamin adin mechuyev lazeh. He is mechuyev to stop. Kiven sheim rabim negdoi ein strichim lahamtinov. You don't have to wait for him to finish his meal. Of course, if the 2, want to, and they can say to him, okay, well, finish up, please, because we want to bench. But if they're in a hurry, they need to go. That third person is mechuyev to stop. Now, bein oina, and they can the other 2 can just go ahead, do the zimun, whether that third person responds or not. Says the Mishnah Berurah Sif Kotan Gimel, Rotzoloima, she'afal pikein heim yoitzim yidei zimun, because the other 2 have been yoitz their zimun, kiven shehu omet sham, because so long as he's there, v'shoimea v'yochel lanos, so long as that, then that's okay. So even if he doesn't answer his broigas, he wanted them to let him finish for another 5 minutes, whatever it is, and he's not answering, doesn't matter. The zimun works because he was there sitting in the room. That excludes if he actually leaves. If he's not answering, then bevada he's not yoytze, unless he properly stops his meal, answers with them, and then he can continue eating, and then he benches later. Okay, ein chiyuv zimun chal. So the haloshen megumgum. The Mishnah says that the language of the Mechaba is a little bit imprecise. What it means is they're not. If one person has finished eating, the other 2 are not bound by that one person, and If you look at number 2, it says very interesting. So if one person finishes eating, the other two are not bound to stop eating. Says footnote 2, if that one person is the father of the family, or is the Rabbi of the other two, because of al-kavod for the father or for the Rebbe, the other two should stop and do the Zimun as soon as the Rebbe or the father has finished. Okay. Eina Rishai, Siv Kotzen Hey, Eina Rishai Levarich Velotzes Lashuk. And moreover, that third person who is that the other two are still eating and he wants to finish off, he's not allowed to leave because he's got to wait. He's got a chiyuv of Zimun. Now says the Mishnah Berurah Siv Kotzen Hey, important Mishnah Berurah. Habach Choylek al Zeh. The Bach argues with this for Daitoi. Ein chiyuv Zimun chal ad sheigmar kol hashleishes sudosam. The chiyuv of Zimun only kicks in when all three have finished their meal. Val kain kodim shegomer hashnayim, and therefore before two of them are finished, rishayha echod levarich b'pnei alts v'lotzes. The Bach is of the opinion that if one person is ready to go, he can just bench and go. He does not have to wait. Ve'etiku ha-Mogen Avraham la'alocha, and the Mogen Avraham brings this la'alocha. Avol kol ha'achreinim cholkin olav v'daitim ka Shulchan Aruch. Other achreinim, however, argue and they side with the Shulchan Aruch. D'mekiven she'eschilu le'echol biyachad, since they began eating together. Chal miyad chayva zimun aleihem. There is a chiyuv zimun on all three of them. Ve'ein shum echol mehem she'gomer sudoso koidem. And if one of them finishes early, he's not allowed to go. He's not rishai levarich b'pnei altzim v'lotzeh. He's not allowed to go and leave and bench by himself and go. Miu im hoya dover nochutz moed. If he's got a very pressing reason why he's got to go, shenogel hefsid moment v'chadam. For example, there will be a monetary loss if he doesn't. Efsh sheyesh lahakel lo echol levarich b'pnei altzmei koidem shegomer hashnayim sudosam v'lotzeh. Maybe then you can be makel and that guy can leave. Ach ba'efen zeh tov yoseh shashnayim yisnagu b'zeh lefnim mishur sadin v'yafsiku misudosam yizaman aleihem. So in other words, you've got three people and one of them has finished eating and he wants to go. There is a machlokas between the Bach and the Shulchan Aruch what to do. According to the Bach, he's got no chiyuv to wait. He can go. That third person can just bench and go and break up the zimun. There's no chiyuv of zimun until they finished eating. But however, the Shulchan Aruch clearly and many achronim argue with that and says no, that the third person should not leave unless there is a very pressing reason. They should not leave. Let's just finish just by mentioning something which we've spoken about previously, and that is a common scenario. What happens if you go to a chasna? So you don't want to wait till the very end of Sheva Brachos. How does that work? What do you do? How does, according to the Bach, according to the Shulchan Aruch, you shouldn't really leave. So he referred back in Zimun Kuf Tzadi Gimel, back in Kuf Tzadi Gimel in Sif Kotzen Zayin, he brings, where is it? Sif Kotzen Zayin. Yeah, he brings Rav Moshe in footnote 7. This is back in page 192. In the footnotes there across the page. In footnote 7, he says the following: Hamishtatif b'chasna, someone who goes to a wedding, for his chelechol yachadim kol ha'orchim, and he eats with all the other guests. The kosher lovlis akev, and it's difficult for him to stay to the end. Ad sheizamna v'yivochu b'chas hamozim v'shev brachos kolsa v'shal shuva zigros Moshe. She'ha'etzel hazeh, the etzel for this person is sheyoma b'ferish koydem achilosei, before he sits down to eat, that he says beferish she'ena mischaven isarf lekvius, he's not intending to join the kvius of this wedding, for levarich yachad im shaham ha'amesubim, to bench with the rest of the guests. And if he expressly says that, then he is not chayiv in sheva brachos because of sheish lismech al zeh lemaisa, and you can rely on this in practice. K'sheish letzorich v'hechrich lotzes, where there's a need. For example, interesting example, k'sheish tzorich lizakev harbe, because he'll have to stay very late to the wedding in yamtin ad sheyizam nusham v'hu tzorich lashkem b'boyke v'lefarnos also, and he's got to get up either for the dirshushe or he's got to get up for parnos. He's got to work the next day, so he can't stay to the end of the chasna. So that would be okay. And I mentioned to you at the time, I'll just finish with this, v'chein muva b'shem the ish, that he told the very young Reb Chaim Kanievsky, "Kashe'achol b'yeshiva umier lachza lilimudei." Yeah, you can imagine Reb Chaim Kanievsky as a yeshiva bacher. He didn't spend a long time having his lunch, and he was keen to get back to the Beis HaMedrash. Sheyichaven kashenot yodov, that he should have in mind when he washes. She'ena roitz lislarf lezimun ba'asara rak b'shleisha. He doesn't have to wait for a minion of zimun, and he should just wait for a zimun of 3. It'll be quicker. Avol kasheshalo hagan Reb Chaim Kanievsky. You can see Reb Chaim's thinking. He goes, but he's saying uncle Chazon Ish. do I have to wait for a zimun even? I want to quickly eat and bench and go. Do I have to wait for a zimun? He said to him, to his nephew, the Rabbi Chaim, for the 3 you should wait. Do a zimun of 3. For the 10 you don't need to wait. So can you leave the chasna early? The answer is yes. We expressly said. And if you're Rabbi Chaim Kanievsky, you do the 3 and not the 10.
Would it be better not to wash?
That's a separate shayla. It's a sudas mitzvah, and if you want to have the bread. If you don't want to wash, and for health reasons or whatever it is, you're not mechuyev to wash, as far as I know. Yeah, okay.